Good morning, Wake Up New Zealand. Carol Sakey here. Today I'd like to talk about the warning signs of abusive relationships. Now, what are the signs of being in an abusive relationship? One would just assume that was pushing and shoving and hitting and punching, etc., etc., etc. But it's much more than that. It's about power and control, ruling by fear tactics to imprison the victim so that the abuser can remain in control of them. Abuse can be much more subtle than that. It can be degrading and cussing a person, leaving them feel confused about the relationship and even questioning their own sanity, making them feel off balance, like they're walking on eggshells. That's mental, emotional abuse. Psychological abuse, when someone tries to control you, manipulate you to do something that you don't want to do, but they hold something bigger over your head. So unless you abide by their wishes, this is what's going to happen to you. They're going to punish you. So that actually will affect your self-esteem, your self-worth, the way you feel about yourself, the way you live, the way you treat others. Will leave you guarded, untrusting. So you may feel helpless and hopeless to do anything. And even the offender may even make it look as if it's your fault and blame you for what's happening. So when it comes down to toxic relationships, there is a sophisticated form of abuse which is called gaslighting, where a character assassination happens and no matter what you say, no one is going to believe you because the untruths have been carefully manipulated purposely to make you look bad. So it's really a horrible way of bringing people on board to make you look like a bad person. Then you get these people, these perpetrators, who say, I love you, but if you don't do it my way, then love becomes the controlling word. Some offenders will throw the victim a bone, so to speak, give them nice compliments, attempt to erase the truth of the bad that has happened or is happening. So with psychological abuse, we're talking about humiliation, criticism, refusing to communicate, sarcasm, unpleasant words, unpleasant tones, isolation from friends, family, guilt trips, using money to favour someone to take control of you, domination and control. If you don't do this, I will do that. Character assassination, as I said before. These people who do this are purposeful manipulators. They know you have insecurities and they will use them against you. They will build up your fears. They convince you that you need better treatment. You need a better well-being. They know what's best for you. They can be charming in public, but behind closed doors and in private, quite different. So if you're in that sort of relationship, you may go to a counsellor, a professional therapist, and they'd say, oh, you better leave that relationship, get yourself sorted out, and get some help, and get life going on track again. And they may give you some tools to deal with that, give you support systems, all good. So these are traits of domestic violence. But let's go a step beyond that. And remember, when I say domestic violence, notice I don't say men or women. I do not use gender because that happens on both sides. But now, let's go to the greater entity. What about governments that use all of that abuse, that mental, emotional abuse that I've just talked about, on the public? Because it does happen. You think about what I've said. So, you know, a nation that is abused. And sure, we do have a nation here in New Zealand that is abused. I'm not talking claptrap here. It is actually happening. And you go, well, no professional counsellor, professional therapist is going to help me out of this one. The only way to get away from this abusive political government is to actually walk away geographically. So, you know, the government knows all the tricks. They use the press, the media, for power of propaganda. You know, Jacinda Ardern, be nice. But what is really happening? She's overseas being nice to everybody else, making out we've got a damn country here that is not suffering, and we are. She's not looking after us at home. So she uses the power of propaganda and media. She diverts your attention to something else while something else is going on, which is much more important than what's happening overseas. You know, recently we hear about so many people that are losing their jobs because they've been character assassinated, because they oppose government and what they are standing for. We have armed police arriving at innocent people's doors. That's a threat in itself. So there is this power and control, the same as in a domestic abusive relationship. So if you speak the truth, you dare not speak the truth because you're guarded by fear. Fear is your prison. So do as I say or go straight to jail, okay? Using special favours. Yeah, let's think about that one. Causing friction within a nation, giving one minority, hierarchy of a minority, more favours than others. It's not for their power and control, it's for the government's power and control. It's strange that people are not just seeing that. Some are, but some are not. So that is about divide and conquer, leaving a country frayed and fragile, fragmented. So it's not strong enough to stand up to the government. We're not standing as a one nation. So, you know, it's like giving favoured people housing and make others wait. And that is definitely happening here. And people who come into this country as a right to housing, a right to health, a right to legal entities, but you and I and other citizens of New Zealand do not have that right. That is absolute power and control. So supporting others and using guilt trips. If you don't go along with what the government is doing, then you may be manipulated with the name of being a white supremacist, whether you're Maori, whether you're Indian, or whatever you are. You're a white supremacist. They don't bother to check on your colour. So, but you know, if you're white Christian, you don't stand much chance because you're definitely going to be labelled a white supremacist. So, supporting others and using guilt trips to lay the blame on others for the Christchurch murders. Well, that's definitely happened. Let's seek out the right-wing white supremacists. They're to blame. Well, I asked you people. The only person to blame there is a person, animals are better than a monster, who actually did those murders. So, here we are, disempowering the peoples of New Zealand, empowering the government by the government using psychological and mental abuse on the public. So, the New Zealand mental health system, as usual, this government will be doing nothing. It always lays on the shoulders of voluntary organisations who have kept this country going. It's not the government. Empowerment. So what is empowerment about? It's about knowledge, support, information, about mending the fractured New Zealand. So, we've got to be wary that this government is purposely causing and manipulating a fractured New Zealand so that we can't stand up together to fight what's going on in our country. It wants to cause that friction, and it's purposeful. So we all know what's happening all over the world, but do we need it to happen here? I mean, when I talk about these things, so many people say to me, oh, well, it's happening all over the world. Yeah, maybe it is, but do we have to accept that? We're isolated, we're far away from everything. Do we have to be collective? Why can't we be unique individuals? Isn't that our identity, to be unique individuals? We're not supposed to be all collectively thinking as one. That is not healthy. We've got to learn to have healthy debate in this country, stand up to the fears, and actually talk up. Thank you, people.